What is the point of suffering? What is the purpose of joy? Is it true that the winner dies with the most toys? It's hard to think sometimes, I should say, that I find myself, do I find myself? Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Um Feeling that no matter what I do, I can alleviate some of my guilt about the suffering in the world um by just, sending money to Live Aid, literally, in a sense, paying my guilty conscience to go away. You know, I thought about this a lot because there's a lot of charitable groups out there. There's a lot of groups who seek to solve issues and whatnot. Or there's a lot of, I mean, firstly, let's focus on the issues themselves. There's a lot of issues in the world that do need solving, but often me and it feels like the general population don't have the full willingness to, like, take time out of their day to act in order to solve these issues, but also even those who are willing and able lack the ability to really change things alone unless they join up and form some kind of group. Very possible, at least on the small community level, to solve issues, especially social ones. But when it comes to deeper economic issues, discrepancy and poverty gaps, then there's often a higher difficulty if you're just a small group. Possible, but much higher difficulty. Um, it's with this that I say, when I say I am not the state. L'état, is it l'état? N'est moi, not c'est moi, as said by Louis XVI. Yes, if I know my history. Um, that I say that while I will try and fulfill my like imperfect duty to, not perpetuate these issues and perpetuate the poverty gap, or maybe, try and work for more ethical companies so don't give my money to less ethical companies who are more liable to, say, use sweatshops, for example. Um, Given my position as a person who has no legislative power, or, is dedicated his life to politics, I don't really believe that, I should be doing the bulk amount of effort or putting the bulk amount of time into solving these issues, or effort or money or, whatever resources. I don't believe I should be putting the bulk amount into solving these issues. An easy issue that comes up, for example, is right when I think of this, when I often think of issues that are thrown on the, say, the consumer in any given situation, or thrown on the general populace as a what's it thrown on the general populace to solve them. So the general populace are burdened with solving issues that ought not to be issues often. And an easy example of this is the culture of tipping in United States. I don't know if it's across America or other countries, but particularly talking about how it works in the United States, where it's just a standard thing to tip, and it's seen as quite frowned upon if you don't tip. Partially, the cheap side of me is like, I shouldn't have to tip anyway. Or I only tip if I feel you're giving a good service. That's nice. Hey, have an extra fiver. Cool, lovely. If I could afford to tip, why not? I'd tip in the UK. But it also reflects the thing underneath that is the fact that, from what I've heard, like a lot of people, especially when they work things like waiter jobs and bar jobs, for example, part of their salary to really get them to a living wage and not just a wage where they can afford to, take the bus to work and eat, is dependent on that tip. They're getting what, I don't know, $7 an hour, $8 an hour, and then they need tips to drag them up to 12. When the cost of living, really living wage might be 15, for example. And this reflects the fact that the food, regardless of how much the food costs, sometimes it's really expensive and they still can't pay a living wage, or sometimes it's really cheap and that's really good for the consumer. But if there's a culture, and if the manager is relying on the culture of tipping, that can turn out to a situation in which they just give a base salary that's really low and just hope and pray that, us, the consumer, will effectively become the state and subsidize the rest of the bill, But like I said, I am not the state. I don't believe I should be burdened with having to help this person get to a living wage, especially when you're making enough money to pay them the living wage. It's almost disrespectful, to be honest, to ask me to pay, especially after I've already given you the money for food and the atmosphere. And, I'd rather know that the workers were getting a wage and pay an extra £2 or whatever, add an extra £1.50 to everything on the menu. If that means I can look at the waiter and they don't look like they're killing themselves and tired out for less than a living wage, but then also trying to tire themselves out just to hope that they can guarantee a tip. And then, some people are trash, so they have to deal with really crappy customers as well. And I hope that, I'd rather pay more and know that they're getting a wage than pay less and then feel kind of pressured to tip, even if they put an average service out. Just because, you can almost get into a moral argument that I must tip, because I have a bit more money left. Say I actually do have the money to tip and I'm not broke like I am right now. Then you can start presenting this moral argument that because, I'm better off than this person, if I do have spare money, then, I ought to, consider at least giving it to them, But, it gets dragged into a moral argument. Like, it's funny how I get dragged into that moral argument, but the manager doesn't get dragged into a moral argument, or the legislator in that area doesn't get dragged into the moral argument of what if we just killed the issue from the root and said, if you don't want to pay people minimum wage, then you can get out of our town. If you don't want to pay people a realistic wage, but then, of course, wages and living wages are affected by things like the housing market, for example, and how scarce houses are, how many houses that are luxury houses that remain empty, which means there's a lot more scarcity for actual affordable homes for people who are making, the actual national average. Like, realistically, unless you want to go into a mortgage, you like mortgages, right? I guess if you're planning to stick around, but then it's where these things spiral out, and how, if there's so many little things going on in an area, do you really want to stay in an area where you have to work at a shitty waitress job and hope for tips? Are you going to get a mortgage in that area? No, of course, you're going to rent, right? But then rent's expensive because houses are scarce, But that's another rant about how, I don't know, especially in the UK, how a housing situation seems to be affected by the fact that people buy things, especially property, not even to rent out, but just to sell on. And too many people are in that habit. And then there's the question of, how does the state intervene with that? I remember seeing something on the news, for example, about the government introducing some more legislation to, cut down prices. I can't remember exactly what it was related to, but it was related to the housing market and, reducing the amount of burden that falls on the customer again. But yeah, I'm not the state also means not only do I not really want to be the person flipping the bill for issues caused by other people, but also when these issues come up and there's charitable causes going to them, I'd like to think that these charities would be able to work in tandem with, whatever governing body is around. They don't have to, of course. You don't want all that red tape, but see what happens when we avoid red tape. Grenfell. All that aside, it should be able to work with a governing body in order to actually solve the issue. Because okay, some issues are very hard to solve. I mean, for example, we'll come to the easy one. Cancer, for example, it's very hard. It's a very hard thing to treat because there's so many nuances between person to person. And it's not like polio where you can just get vaccines, get a vaccination program, and get education going, and then we can eradicate polio. As far as I know, what's the disease that's now eradicated in the world? It was about the 90s it was eradicated, and the polio is almost eradicated. I think all but 3 countries. So it's not like that. Some things are very hard, like cancer, for example. But I do feel, at the very least, government should help not disenfranchise such groups from working. But then you also go into the other side of how charities operate. And obviously, as a charity, you want to keep going, right? And keep working towards the cause. But there's that liability to get lost in trying to self-preserve yourself the way a business would run, rather than focus on the cause. And maybe you have to reshuffle some things, which is why I always get a little bit cynical when I see charity adverts to work as a charity fundraiser, and I can get paid £9 next week an hour, but they're asking me for £6 a month. So I ran a quick calculation, and I think they have to get 200 sign-ups. That's 50 sign-ups a week, which is harder in economic times because people aren't willing to let go of their money, especially when you're locked in. Well, you're not locked in, but you've pledged £6 a month for 12 months or whatever. It's hard to get people locked in. So I have to get, say, 50 sign-ups a week in order to break even on the wage that I'm getting, let alone turn a profit, so can actually some of that money go towards the cause, be it cancer or homeless children or some war-torn area in the world. But yeah, a lot of people in the circles I may have associated myself with have brought up the concept that charity is lovely and we shouldn't go against it, but in the same sense it often acts as a bit of a duct tape for the issues that either have been caused by the state as a whole or society as a whole, or partially issues that the government has either perpetuated or at least failed to decrease. Like inequality, like the thing I mentioned, the housing example, like the thing with the tipping culture in USA, and how people can end up homeless because they get fired from that waitress job or something like that, and how that stems on. But yeah, I don't enjoy being the state. I don't mind helping people out. That's lovely, but I don't enjoy, like I said, carrying the heaviest burden, me shared amongst, the general populace of, solving these issues. I'm here to talk about them and stuff like that, but, especially being for taxpayers, it would be nice if we could actually have faith in our government and work with it. But that relates to the old video. I was about to burst out into George Michael lyrics again. Yeah, to be honest, I'm just tired. Like, I've barely even paid any money to charity, and I'm tired of this concept. I really feel like, especially because most issues you can't just throw money at them. It seems like another issue you can't throw money at them. It needs to be a change of culture, like I said, with the tipping culture, or how the wage structures work, or money helps put the stopgap in the same way a charity helps put a stopgap on the issues that governing bodies have failed to at least lessen. But and when I say I, do I speak to other people? I guess we, the general populace, can't just keep throwing money at matters, because that's not enough. At the very least, it's not enough, and in some senses, it might be stopping the real progress that could be at hand, for example. But yeah, I'm not the state, mate, so masturbate to your hate somewhere else.